This is Paul Sanneman from Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and especially have more fun. If you're not having fun, it's not worth it. I have a special guest this morning, Matt Thibeau, as in the football player, I guess, right?
Thanks
And
for having me on, Paul.
right. So, question is, have you tell me about your business and how you got into it in Savant Marketing? Tell me a little about Savant Marketing, okay?
Yeah, for sure. So I own a company. It's called Savant Marketing Agency, and we specialize in helping contractors systemize their marketing and sales process. How I got into it was like a little bit of a journey. Straight out of high school, started doing a whole bunch of different businesses, but I was lucky enough actually to work alongside a mentor, basically. So my dad had a friend. Um, we did a lot of mountain biking together. So I met this friend, and he was in marketing, and he was actually involved in like kind of construction marketing. And I was kind of at an age where I was a little bit lost of like exactly what I wanted to do. And so I kind of just had the guts of asking him, like, hey, like, what do you do? He explained to me, oh, I do marketing for these industrial type businesses. And I was kind of just like, lost enough to be like, well, can I work for you? Like, I just wanted someone to work under.
Right.
So I worked under him for free, actually, for about a year, learned a lot, and then got my first job working for a construction business. And I was like the only marketing person on their team, and did that for about another year. Learned a lot, learned like what works, what didn't. And then that was when I decided, okay, I want to go out on my own, do my own thing. We worked with a couple other clients outside of construction, but I always found that just because of the affinity and my past experience working with Steve and this previous company, I always came back to working with contractors. So that was pretty much the story.
Okay. So, what do you like about working with contractors, Matt? What makes them different?
I think what I like working with contractors is that a couple different things. I think that they're really, really good at what they do, but the marketing and sales side of what they have in their business is usually what is lacking. Like a lot of other companies will have a lot more sophisticated marketing and sales. And so, what I really like working with construction businesses is that we can really take their business to another level by just implementing some simple sales and marketing strategies. And that, like I said, can have a huge impact because they're doing everything else properly in their business, but it's just kind of maybe like the small things there that they're missing out on. That's one of the reasons. Honestly, the other reason is I just really like working with contractors because they're great people. I'm not really like a stuck up type person, or like maybe a suit and tie type guy. So nothing against more professional type services, but I do like the down to earthness of like talking to a contractor and working with them, because it kind of suits me as well.
So, Matt, tell me a success story of something you told a contractor to do and it actually worked
Oh,
in
that's
marketing.
great. Yeah. So one success story that comes to mind is we were working with a Interlock contractor. So we call it Interlock here in Canada, pavers in the States. And we were working with him, and he was trying to figure out a way like, how can I really separate the
Hey,
work that
Matt,
I
quick
do?
question. Can you talk closer to the microphone? It's sort of hard to hear you.
Oh yeah, no worries.
There we go.
How's
Okay,
that?
that's much better. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. No worries. So he was doing pavers, and he was a landscaper. And so we were trying to figure out how can we differentiate his company in his marketplace. So we're throwing around some ideas. He was saying, well, what if like as a promotion, all the quotes that come in for a month, like I could give away hockey tickets, like that hockey is big here. I was like,
Right.
yeah, but it's not really related to the service that you do, right? And he was like, well, we're throwing around just some different ideas. And then that was when I realized where the warranty that's included with the stones that he's doing for his patios was a pretty substantial warranty. And so I mentioned that. I said, wow, I noticed that the stone supplier that you have, they offer a lifetime warranty on the stones. And he was like, yeah, for sure. Anything happens to those stones, we'll replace them. And I was like, okay. And he was saying, well, every other landscaper, though, they all offer the same they all have the same supplier. I said, yeah, but when we look online, none of them are talking about that kind of advantage though. So maybe it's on the back end, but on the front end, clients don't really know that that's like a benefit, right? And so we implemented the lifetime warranty, and we would say like on all stones, you get a lifetime warranty. And so we did that as a marketing campaign. And just that kind of positioning strategy for him was able to like really catapult him to another level with his marketing campaign and get a huge leg
Wow.
up on a lot of other guys who were just saying, oh, we're charging this much per square foot or whatever, trying to compete on price. So that's an example. That campaign is still running to this day. And we've had some copycats come in and try and kind of like, say, hey,
Right.
me too. But so that's an example of positioning strategies.
Okay, so sometimes something underlying you don't think about, you can, even though the competition does it, they're not talking about it. It makes a differentiate from the competition, right?
It's all about how you present it. Yeah.
Right. So tell me about another success story, because you work with smaller contractors. So how much money should they allocate for marketing? What should they build brands? Should they pay per click? What kind of, what do you suggest a small contractor should do to get more business?
Well, every company's different. So, a lot of guys will ask, well, what percentage of my revenue should I spend on marketing? Should it be 5%? Should it be 10%? Probably somewhere around the 10 to 15 percentage. Like some guys, 20%. It kind of depends on like how much you want to grow, right? There's no secret answer there. But I would say probably somewhere around the 10% range if you're in growth mode. If you're trying to get more, if you're trying to get more effective or efficient is a better word on your marketing, then maybe you're dialing that back a bit, right? And you're not so much in growth mode. I would say for like some of the smaller contractors, a success story, a lot of guys when they're starting out, maybe they're doing, 300, 400K a year, and they're trying to get to that next stage, maybe a million. Odds are most of what they're doing is working on the tools and they're not really working on the business, right?
Okay.
And so the first thing that we say is, okay, carve out at least an hour of the day to just work on your business. Like whether that's calling up some shops and making some relationships, or maybe that's, just working on systems and, really dialing out your process and writing that out. Those are some examples of things that a lot of clients who come to us at that stage of something that they really need to be able to get to the next level, right? And so like an example of a success story like that, you would see them on our website, but we had one contractor, he was a flooring contractor and he was working a lot in the business, right? I think at the time he only had maybe one or two other guys helping him out, but all of his time was spent on actually just the floor refinishing, right? And he was actually paying a marketing company before coming to us around like 1,500, $2,000 a month. And it was too long of a process for him to be able to actually start seeing results fairly quickly. Because like a lot of agencies will say, well, just wait like 6, 8 months, type thing. But for a lot of these guys, that's just too long to be able to
Right.
sustain that, right? So when he came to us, he was like, I need something that's going to work fairly quickly. So we did some ads for him, and then we trained him on appointment setting. So these people who are coming in, who are strangers who don't necessarily know you, right? How do you take them from quickly qualifying them on the phone to then booking them into an estimate? So anyway, so finally, like the success story, I guess you could say for him would be he actually threw out his back at one point in the year, and he had 3 to 4 guys at that point like working for him. So the success story is that for an entire month of throwing out his back, he was able to just take calls on his couch and like book those appointments, make some sales even on the phone, and then his guys would go out to the actual job sites and complete the work. So for someone like him, that's huge. So that's a pretty cool story of that.
So it made a big difference, right?
Yeah.
I had a guy once time that I think he crashed his plane, and his company, he had to spend like, I don't know, a month or two in the hospital. And even though it was not good for him physically, it was the best thing ever happened for his business, because it got him, like you said, working on the business and not in it. So sometimes what looks like a negative thing, because you can't convince people to, stay home unless something radical happens and they need to stay home, right? Or work on the business. It's true. So what do you think's for a small business, like you, a lot of small business? Is it pay per click? And I know you work in Canada. You did work in the US, or is it all in Canada?
US and Canada.
Okay. So well, the good news, they may hire you, they got a 30% discount from the US, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So,
we got a good exchange rate for sure.
right. So, question would be, for a small business, I mean, did you pay per click? Do you try to build brand? You know, you can put signs on your truck. A lot of these small guys, where do you start with the marketing part?
Yeah, so with the smaller guys, the first thing that we look at is positioning. So what I mean by that is let's isolate your services a little bit into what we call the primary profit maker. Like what makes you the most amount of profit that you enjoy doing that we can really focus on and push. So let's say, for example, you're a painter, that would be like interior repaints. So we isolate, okay, that's like the niche that we're going to focus on. And then the next thing is let's create an offer based around that that's going to attract the right type of clientele. For example, a lot of painters, when they're trying to get attention on marketing, they'll do like a price related offer and they'll say, hey, like we're offering a price match guarantee or, get 15% off this month to be booked before this time. But what we'll do instead is a value-based offer where we'll say, hey, we're offering a free color consultation this month that has $197 value. And we're going to come in and we're going to figure out the exact color that fits the mood and the vibe that you're going for, etc. And so that's kind of like the first groundwork that we would start with is really like, what is the message? What's the niche? What's the offer? How are we positioning you? Because the worst thing that you could do, especially with like a smaller business, is just kind of throw out a bunch of stuff. Like that's kind of unfortunately what happens when they go to the marketing agency is they'll just say like, we can do like flooring, we can do basements, we can do bathrooms, kitchens, and blah, blah, blah. And they'll just kind of throw out all this stuff. But really the secret in the beginning is to get the messaging right,
Right. So you say focus on what they like to do and what's profitable, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So give me an example of somebody you've done that for that it worked for.
Yeah. So like, for example, a good example of that would be we work with a lot of remodelers. So we had a remodeler come to us where he was kind of doing that, where it was like, hey, flooring, basements, bathrooms, blah, 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 all these different types of things, right? But when we the more that we questioned and the more we like dove in deeper, he was like, well, I really have good systems for bathrooms. And like, honestly, most of the pictures I have are bathrooms and I enjoy doing bathrooms. And bathrooms typically tend to be like maybe a little bit of a lower end compared to kitchen, like a lower ticket price compared to kitchens or basements. And so it's a bit of an easier sale. So like his sales ability wasn't as great either. So we were like, I really think that bathrooms would make sense for this. So he basically repositioned the entire company from a front end, not a back end. Like he would still take on those other jobs, but from a front end on his marketing, he was doing just the bathrooms, right? And so he stuck with that, doing that. And then it came to the point where he's getting about 20, 30 leads a month for the bathrooms. And he scaled it to the point where I was like, hey, now bathrooms is like rocking and rolling. Now I'm going to add basements. And then he slowly started adding other things after. So instead of starting off like super, you're starting off super broad, when you're doing marketing, you want to start off super specific and then slowly add another. So that's another example of like isolating a niche in the beginning.
So you're saying focusing. So for example, if you're trying to be the best, everything to everybody, it's hard to do. But if you're trying to be, the best bathroom guy in your town or your city, it's an easier market to focus on. So if people are looking, I just want to do a bathroom, you're going to come up first. They're going to look at you first. And there's less competition in just doing bathrooms, right? Especially from a marketing point of view.
Yeah, and it also becomes like a feedback loop because you're focusing only on bathrooms. So then those are the type of testimonials you get, and those are the pictures that you get. So then you get more pictures and testimonials, which gets you more bathrooms, which gets you more pictures and testimonials, which gets you more bathrooms. So it kind of just like, it's a flywheel.
Right. And then you can be, say your bathrooms are higher margin, easier to do, you become the bathroom guy and you become more profitable and it's easier to get leads, which makes a lot of sense, especially for small guys, because I'm thinking some guy's doing $500,000 a year and he's doing a bunch of remodels. It might be basements, might be bathrooms, might be kitchens. But I think that's good advice. One is you focus on one particular thing like bathrooms, and probably you can even geo focus your marketing. Say, okay, I'm going to do bathrooms if you're in a big town in this section of the city, because I know that all houses are old, the bathrooms are bad. And so in this zip code or these, 20, 30 square blocks, I know there's a lot of people that need their bathroom replaced. So you can become the guy for bathrooms in that zip code, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like you said, like it's easier on operations as well. Like scaling a business, there's a lot more problems that come into play, like cash flow and all this kind of stuff. So I've personally found it easier to help our clients get transformative results when we simplify the operations for them too. Because if they're doing all these different stuff, then it's like now it's not just marketing they have to worry about in sales. It's like putting out all these fires and managing all of that chaos too.
Right.
Right? Yeah,
So it's really good. It's really good to get really good at one thing, especially if you're
for
small,
sure.
because I think that's where the small guys have a problem, because they haven't got the resources that, say, a remodeling company in the same town's doing 6 million and they're throwing 100,000 advertising. It's hard to compete with them on everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I would argue they start doing a bunch of different services because they don't have enough lead flow of the one service. So they're kind of just doing what they can to get by. But because of that, they get stuck in the operations more. Right.
Sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so you say one is focus on something you're good at and you like to do and you make money at. So you're focusing on a particular product or service, and you focus on a geography, like geofence your marketing. So you can say, okay, I'm working in this section in town, whether it's roofs or bathrooms, whatever. And then you can become the guy or the girl, whatever, in that market for that product, as opposed to saying, okay, in Vancouver, I'm going to be the remodeler for everybody in the whole town. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So focus your resources and focus your market so you can become the guy. I was with somebody the other day that said that he thinks that people should be able, if you can't turn down, what is it? He gave me a number, like 30% of the work that comes your way, your marketing is probably not working. Because he felt that the key is to have more business than you need so you can, get the margins you're looking for. Because if you're always competing on price, that's not a good thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I can give you another story. We had a client who was like very, he was around like 100K, so like much lower than, just getting started. One man show, and he was doing a bathtub reglazing. So like pretty specific, where he'll come in and like reglaze your bathtub, and it was beautiful work. But his biggest problem was just lead flow and sales, right? And so we came in and we created a system for him. Obviously, someone with at that type of revenue level doesn't have like a ton of money to invest in marketing. So we had to get kind of creative on like the outlets and like the budget for the ad spend and everything. But we were able to get him to the point where he was at least getting, I would say, about a call a day of someone saying like, hey, I need my bathtub reglazed, et cetera, et cetera. And he wrote into us and he said, like, I've never been at the point in my business where I could just be like, you know what? I'm going to try quoting a little bit higher for this one just to see what can happen. Because when you're in a place where you have more lead flow, then you can start being like, I'm pretty busy. Like maybe I'll just quote a little bit higher for this one and see if I can actually land it. So that was a pretty big win for him mentally, where he could get to the point where he could do higher quotes and he'd be like, oh crap, like they actually said yes. And that was like a huge shift in his mindset, because he's not operating from a place of scarcity and quoting much lower because he's scared of losing the job.
Well, that's important, because all of that, let's say, I'm just saying an example, let's say you do a job for 2,000 and you're going to make, 2 or 300. If you do the same job for 3,000, you're going to make 1,300, right? So it's huge difference in market and budget and markup and profit, right?
Yeah, and like as a one-man show, you don't really have any other leverage other than just like charging more, right?
Right. Well, do you mind asking, if that's a really small guy, what was his marketing budget? I mean, 100,000 a year. How much can you spend on marketing?
Yeah, so his ad spend budget was about 500 a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
So
you actually made that work?
we made it work, because the only reason I would say that something like that could work is because it was so specific, the niche, bathtub reglazing. So like it was a very specific service. Whereas if he were to do something like that for like bathroom remodeling, then that would be very challenging,
So I imagine
because
that's a
that's so much
keyword
more
issue,
competition.
right? Because in
Yeah,
keywords, bathroom glazing has a lot less competition than bathroom
exactly.
remodeling, right?
Exactly. Yeah. He only had like one or two other competitors in his area, right?
Okay. So, what would you say if you're going to say, you've worked with a lot of companies now, small companies, um, how does a small company grow? Because I mean, a lot of the companies I work with are, 2 to 30 million. So I'm
Yeah.
curious working with you because you're one of the guys that are just getting started.
Yeah.
So let's say you got two guys in a truck or a girl in a truck, whatever, small company, and they're now starting to, okay, venture into at what level do you actually consider marketing? You left your boss, you're now doing remodeling because you didn't like your boss or went to your own thing. Your wife told you to do it.
Yeah.
Pick a reason. Now you're doing a remodeling company. You're, literally have a truck,
Yeah.
no office or anything. And so at what time should
Mhm.
you actually consider remodeling? Because a lot of these guys get work from the people they've known, their neighbors,
Yeah.
friends, family, that kind of thing. And then that runs out after a while, right?
Yeah.
So at what point does a small contractor, let's say 2 or 300,000, make the decision to do marketing, and which kind of marketing should they do?
I would say that they should start doing marketing when they have maxed out their ability to deliver, right? So they're at the point where they're like working all the time, they're doing jobs all the time, blah blah blah. And they're kind of at the point where they need to hire someone, but they don't have enough consistency in their lead flow and workflow to be able to confidently make that hire and keep that person super busy. Usually that stage is around like what you were saying, like 300,000 honestly is like when you're kind of like you can make a $300,000 construction company with no marketing, just referrals, like you've done a great job. But like now you're at the point where you want to make that leap of hiring like some more guys, but you're unable to do that because of fear of losing them for slow times, right? So advertising really makes sense when you're looking for like consistent lead flow coming through so that you can hire some guys to start completing the work that you're doing, and then you're just a sales guy.
And
Yeah.
this is a rock and a hard spot, though, right?
Yeah,
Because you think
it
about it,
is.
well, if I hire the guy, I can't afford the advertising, and if I do the advertising, I can't afford the guy, right?
It's tough. Yeah. Typically,
So,
like what I'll
so
tell guys.
where's that balance come in? Because you're thinking, well, I can hire a guy, but I won't be able to keep him busy.
Yeah.
But if I spend the money on marketing, I can't afford to hire the guy. So how do you deal with something like that?
Yeah, we've seen situations like that. What I recommend is do the marketing first, so then you have the lead flow coming through, and it's always better to be way busier than like not busy. So you load yourself up with work, and a good in between strategy is if you have access to a subcontractor that you can bring in to help you out a little bit with the extra work, but you're not quite ready to hire someone. That's a really good segue. You bring a subcontractor in to help you out. Maybe he's not full time or whatever, but he can come in time to time if you have too much workload and help you. And then you can make that jump of hiring like a full time person. So I would say like start off with the marketing and then start moving towards hiring.
Okay. So it's chicken or egg issue, but you got to
Yeah.
get the marketing, get the work. It's like the no time for time management thing, right?
Yeah.
So you need, so I guess the small guy, it's the leap of faith in a way when he goes, okay, I'm going to spend some money on marketing. So let's say a guy is doing 500,000, small guy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, what does he spend on marketing? 1,000 a month? 2,000? I mean, how do you make that decision on what he can afford and what makes economic sense?
Yeah. So the 500,000 a year, that's like a really good spot to start scaling with marketing because at that point you've got a couple guys on your crew, you've probably like you figured out delivery, and now you're at the point where you're like, we just need more lead flow to grow. So that's a really good spot to be in. In terms of like how much do we spend? Um, Going back to like it's all about basically what are your goals. So for example, we had a client where he came to us, he was doing about 450 a year painting business, and he was like, I want to hit 1 million this year. And so like he's trying to double his business. That's a pretty substantial amount of growth. So a strategy like that is going to require more ad spend than if he said like, I just want to add 150,000 extra, you know? So it depends first on the goal. Like first we need to understand where are you trying to go, because that's going to require a lot more ad spend, right? Because we need a lot more lead flow. We need a lot more attention, right? And then the second thing that we use to like really calculate is what is a job worth to you? Because based off of, let's say that we do the math and we say, okay, like out of this many leads, we know you can close X amount. Even as long as you're breaking even on the marketing per month, if you're able to break even and sustain growth still, then that's completely worth it. So what we would do is probably run the numbers just to see what do you actually make per job, and then how many jobs can we forecast of us landing per month, you know, on a conservative basis based off of X amount of leads that we're expecting to get. So
And so
that's like
how fast can you expect that to work? You need a year, a month, 6 months, you know, because these little guys, you know, I also some advice. I think instead of buying a new truck, go spend some money on advertising, right?
yeah,
Because, you know, a lot of, especially in construction, there's a lot of stuff you can install and equipment and, you know, that are hard stuff that your truck's still going to work. But you can spend money on soft costs like marketing, which is going to make you more than getting a new truck, if you know what I mean, right?
yeah. Yeah, so in terms of timeline, like you were saying, is that, you know, a month, 6 months, a year? Depends on the strategy that you're using for marketing. So for example, if you invest that heavily into SEO, I wouldn't recommend doing that right off the beginning, because SEO is a long-term investment. When we're thinking about investing, right, like your money or whatever, SEO is a long-term investment strategy that it will pay off in the future, but it's going to take you about 6 to 8 months to really start seeing the payback of that. And so for a newer business, it's simply too long for them to like, you know, keep paying month after month thousands of dollars, hoping that and I'm assuming that the company you hire is doing the job they're going to properly, so then like it will pay off, right? So what we like to do when we start off with is we want to get some quick wins for our clients, because when they get quick wins, then they're able to take that money they've just made and reinvest it into marketing, right?
They see it as an investment because they, you know, spend, you know, 5,000 on marketing and they get, you know, 5 or 6,000 in profit on jobs quick enough to justify the marketing.
Exactly. Like in the first 3 months, we need to be able to show that, like, hey, you're making money back from this, so you can continue this, right? So in the beginning, we like to invest heavily into ads, because ads are going to put you in front of the right people and you're there pretty much instantly. So what that means is that you can put up an ad, get a lead within the hour, be on the phone with them,
This is like social, this is like Google ads and
Google ads, Facebook ads,
that's right.
etc. And so it's like you can put up an ad, get a lead, be on the phone with them, book an estimate tomorrow, close the job, and within like a day or two, be able to be making money back. Now, is
Right.
that always like, you know, the absolute expectation that should be had? Absolutely not, right? Like it takes time sometimes, you need to learn the process, there's kinks sometimes to work out. But I would say within the first month, our goal is we want to start seeing our clients closing jobs. Like we want to at least see them like in that first month, they've closed at least one job or they're close to closing a job. So
Right.
then by month two, the leads that they've started working, now that's starting to have like a trickle effect. Maybe they're doing a bit of follow up. So that's our timeline that we like to follow. In the first month, you know, it's like sometimes we have clients where it takes them a long time to really adapt to this new sales process because they're so used to dealing with people they know, like referrals and stuff like that. So booking appointments for them is something that takes a lot of practice.
Right. And
So maybe
also
that,
it's
yeah,
harder to close somebody you don't know on a referral. I mean, a cold call that is, you know, your neighbor sends you somebody, right? So their
yeah,
skills have to be better.
exactly. So for some clients, I'm coaching them a lot in the first month, and then the second month it really starts to click and they get some momentum. Whereas other guys, like if they tell me that, yeah, we've been using, you know, some lead sources like Angie's or House or whatever, they're used to it a little bit more, then I know we can get success faster. So
Okay. So, I mean, we all know contractors aren't noted for their patience. especially when it comes to spending money. They're used to building a house. They start at, they're project oriented. They have a beginning, a middle and a finish. That's the same problem in recruiting. Like they don't understand it's a long-term thing. So marketing's like that too. So I understand smaller contractors are looking for results in a couple, 3 months, at least to say, is this working? And that'll get them sort of deal with their patience issue, right? Like, oh, this is working, I'll keep doing it, versus I tried it for a year and nothing happened. So Matt, question, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, and I think this is a perfect match for smaller businesses, because a lot of marketing people will not deal with anybody under a couple million. They just won't do it. So I think you're really good for that market between 500,000 and a couple million. I think that would be like your ideal client. So, and besides that, from the US, since Matt is in Canada, you get an immediate 30% discount.
We'll see about that. We'll see.
Right. I mean, it's dollars are dollars, right? So how can they get in touch with you, Matt?
Yeah, so the best place is to go to savantmarketingagency.com. That's our website. So you can go on there, you can go to the resources tab. We've got like a podcast, we've got a group with 3,000 contractors. Or if you want to talk with me about marketing, like you can book a call on there directly. Another place, where you can follow, it's on the follow button at our website, is on Facebook. I'm posting on there all the time, so you can follow me there. But I would say just go to our website. It's the best place.
Okay. And you want to spell Savant for them, for people who might be challenged?
Yeah, absolutely. It's SAVANT. So savantmarketingagency.com.
Okay, cool. Well, Matt, I appreciate you being here. I think that's really good, especially for smaller guys, because a lot of smaller guys don't have your kind of resource available. So that's awesome. So if you're a smaller contractor and you have a hard time finding somebody to actually get you some more business, I think Matt's a really good choice.
Thanks for having me.